request. I'm confused. This is what the government's excuse has been all along, is local control. You have this request now. Don't we want to learn from this? Another thing we need to learn from this is who is in charge of Michigan Public Schools. The industry has been deathly silent. Us families have combed every level of government to get the same answer. We don't have jurisdiction. I don't have the power. So the simple answer is nobody. Nobody is responsible for Michigan Public Schools. And if you think about that, it's actually a bigger issue than the shooting. It's been 3 years since the shooting, and we haven't implemented any real change. Obviously, to implement change, you need to know what happened. An investigation will reveal the truth to drive the change. Don't we want to learn from this? This has always been about change, period, nothing else. It's time for our state government to investigate this. Stop hiding, stop making excuses. A Michigan public school was the scene of a shooting. Kids' lives were lost. Kids were shot. A teacher was shot. Every kid in school that day has a shooting badge. A shooting badge that they will heavily carry on their chests the rest of their lives. Don't we want to learn from this? Steve? Or Craig, you got anything? Megan, you got anything? Paul, you good? Okay.
So today is a call to action to drive change. There is an epidemic killing our children, and we must do whatever is required to create the change necessary to save our children's lives. Today is a call to action for the state government leadership to step up and act. No more sitting on the sidelines, to the other part of the government and saying the others should do it. Today is a call to action for the state to conduct an investigation of the Oxford shooting. Comprehensive investigation that compels cooperation from all involved parties, looks at everything leading up to the shooting itself, the response, and the aftermath. Supporting us today in this call to action are representatives from the local community, police, fire, and government bodies. We are supported in this call to action by the State Board of Education, the Oxford Board of Education, the Village of Oxford, Oxford Township, and Oakland County, including the Board of Commissioners and the offices of the Oakland County Executive, Prosecuting Attorney, and Sheriff. To drive change properly, we need to have data, not opinions. This investigation of the Oxford shooting would be the opportunity to pull together all the disparate data and fill in the blanks and missing pieces, to establish a data-driven base to create real countermeasures. This is about getting the truth out there to create the countermeasures to save our kids. This is not about identifying people to prosecute. That's what the Attorney General continues to get wrong on this. While that is a part of the story, the bigger piece and what we're talking about today is to drive the change, to change the future. This also includes the work already done through the criminal investigation, the upcoming after action review, the guidepost report, and the Oakland County Commission to address gun violence. This is an opportunity to leverage the tragedy that occurred into an act as a lessons learned for the entire state and possibly even the nation. For the most part, all we've heard from the government agencies for the past 3 years is why they can't do things. Members of the state legislature have proposed various bills to try to address school safety, but how many of them are based off data from school mass shootings in Michigan? How many bills have languished in committee? The State Board of Education issued a resolution back in June to the legislature asking for a complete investigation of the Oxford shooting. Nothing's happened. We have tried to discuss with leadership, both the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House. We were put off until 2 weeks ago when I managed to have conversations with their staff, not with them. Our repeated attempts to discuss directly with the AG has been declined. Specifically, the Attorney General has said she can't do an investigation because, one, she doesn't have the authority. Two, that she needs an invitation from the local school board. And three, that she needs probable cause. So be it. We have worked to remove these obstacles one by one. When it comes to the AG not having authority, I asked Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald to explain to me why. I had never gotten an answer from the AG and struggled to understand why not. For the longest time, she couldn't give me an answer. Recently, she provided me with a memorandum laying out the reasons why her office believes the AG does have the authority to conduct an investigation. We have provided that to the Attorney General. Number two, the AG said she needs an invitation from the school board. Well, we provided first the reasons why that is not actually true. And then we secured for her the invitation from the board via the resolution in August. The board is standing with us here today. Three, the AG has said she needs probable cause. This is the one I struggle with the most on, obviously. But we've provided examples of Michigan laws that were broken. We provided her the 590-page report from Guidepost, created by former federal prosecutors, that details gross negligence and examples of Michigan statutes and regulations not being followed. Since Columbine, there have been 417 school shootings, and more than 383,000 students have experienced gun violence at school. From 2000 through 2017, the country averaged about 11 school shootings per year. In 2021, there were 42. In 2022, there were 46. I think this is pretty clear. The time for excuses has passed. We need our state leadership to take action to prevent more Michigan students from becoming victims to this epidemic.
All right, I'm gonna close this out here with my statement here. We want our government to investigate themselves. And I want to know why you're not interested in investigating yourself. Not once have you asked any of the victims' families how they are doing. Not once have you asked any of the kids in the school that were in school that day, how are they doing? What do they need? Not once. You haven't asked anybody any questions to evaluate yourself. before, during, or after, not one question to see how good of a job that you're doing. So if you're not interested in preventing gun violence, and you're not interested in supporting victims and communities after a gun violence tragedy, why do you exist? Why are you here? So you're not interested in prevention, and you're not interested in supporting after a tragedy happens. Aren't you in the business of people? Don't you want to serve and protect people? We're human beings, we're people. You need to run a better business. And you need to be accountable to run a better business. Do an investigation. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, first, I want to thank everyone standing behind us here today and supporting this. I hope that this image sends a clear message to the state government that everybody from the village, the township, the county, law enforcement is all standing with us, asking for this action. Take notice. We, the families, we really don't care about the mechanics of exactly how the investigation gets done. Frankly, we're tired of the back and forth between the government agencies saying, oh, you should have done this and you should do that, and we don't have authority, but you do, and we're done with that. We don't care. Get the job done. It's been 3 years of excuses. It's about the governor, the attorney general, the speaker of the House, the Senate majority leader, sitting down in a room together and saying, we need to do this. How do we make it happen? It's as simple as that. We said from the very beginning that we are not going anywhere. We will do whatever it takes to drive the change. Because it's not a matter of if a school shooting happens again, but when. Thank you. Alex.
Thank you. We're going to open up for questions in the room, and for those on Zoom, if you're on Zoom, please ask your questions via the Q&A feature.
Hey guys, Jordan with CBS News Detroit. You guys have been fighting tooth and nail for what seems like, I mean, it's been 3 years to try to get some answers from the state government at any level. What do you think, if anything, today will accomplish, and how long do you think you'll keep fighting for answers? Thank you.
Well, we'll fight. We'll fight to our grave. You know, I'm never going to give up this fight. You know, as far as what we, you know, do we think, what was the question was, what do we think today's going to accomplish?
Correct, that's the first part. The second part was, like you just
Yeah.
answered, how long will you fight for?
Well, I think the public needs to be aware. Like, I think the people in the state of Michigan need to be aware. All the people who work in schools need to be aware that we haven't learned a thing from this. This hasn't even been investigated. So, that should be eye-opening to people.
Thanks for doing this. Anyone can answer question. Sean from Channel 4. You always have other businesses. What you're speaking to is essentially the buck stops at the top. Gretchen Whitmer, governor of the state of Michigan. I'm emailing her people now and Nessa's people now with your direct quotes. But if we don't get a response from them, I wanted to hear what your direct message would be to the person at the top.
Well, I mean, I kind of asked that question earlier, like who's in charge of public schools here, right? We don't care. Just do an investigation so we can learn from it. I mean, if it's Whitmer, if it's AG Nessel, if it's our state legislator, I don't care who it is. But if that really is a big problem, we don't know who should investigate this shooting, and and nobody wants to step up and.
Hi, Steve, can you say whether you have heard back from the Attorney General's office after submitting that memo, your request, the letters from your attorney? Since this weekend or this morning, any response from their office?
I have a confirmation they received it,
But no discussion.
nothing, as usual.
So they sent us a reply Sunday saying that they would investigate this, the attack and what's happened, but they keep saying that Claire McDonald has the jurisdiction, and if she needs more evidence to investigate school employees, she should ask for it. What do you think about that?
Well, once again, it comes back to, we don't care at this point. I find it interesting that for the past 3 years, the AG has said she doesn't have the authority to do the investigation. Now, it's 180 degrees and she says, oh yeah, by the way, we do have the investigation. Oakland County prosecutor, you're right. But you guys should be doing it. As I said, get in a room, decide who's doing what, and just do it. Stop pointing fingers back and forth. We should not have to be sitting up here repeatedly saying, do a damn investigation. I'll paraphrase the governor a bit here. Fix the damn system. Forget about the roads. Keep our kids safe.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Becker from the news station. First, I'm so sorry for your losses. I know we're coming up to the 3-year anniversary, and it's very clear from all of you sitting up there that feelings are still hurting, and this is for you. To kind of quote Buck here, don't you want to learn from this is such a simple question. Why do you think you've hit so much resistance for so many years? Why do you think people don't want to look into this? What are they really afraid of here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Don't we want to learn from this? I don't know. Is it change? It's a great question. And I don't know how to answer it. Don't we want to learn from it? Nobody seems to be interested in government. I think we should ask them that question.
Hi guys, Whitney from Channel 7. I've been to a couple of these where you all are addressing media, community members, and you've been very tireless since the day that this happened. Can you just kind of describe for us that feeling? We are about to reach the 3-year mark and you guys still have zero answers as to what happened in that school building that day, what went wrong. What's that frustration level? What's that feeling you put in your stomach as we're approaching the 3 year?
It's really difficult, living in, with all these questions in your mind and not being able to, move to the next chapter. It's really grueling to, try and fathom why we can't get to the bottom of something, why we can't, have our questions answered, why we can't address the concerns that we have, not just for us, but for the whole state. Everybody who goes to school, this isn't about us. This is about the safety of the general safety of the public. And it just seems so logical that it would be something that would have already been happening. We could have learned so much in the beginning, and we could have already effectively put new change in place to mitigate any type of situation that can be bad and harmful. It's hard to it's hard to move forward. It's like you're just in a, it's like you're in an empty room and there's nothing that you can do. There's no doors to get out of. It sucks.
A question from Anna Clark with ProPublica. Can one of the speakers please share more about what you'd hope a state investigation would uncover that wasn't previously uncovered by the Guidepost Solutions report?
So I'll take this one. It really isn't about there being some bombshell hidden, right? To be honest, for the people, all the AG concerned about prosecution, etc., there's enough already known out there from that perspective. What we're here today trying to drive is looking at the big picture and how do we fix the broken pieces of the system itself. We know there's a lot more there. There's a lot of details that have come out but have been kind of pushed to the side and glossed over. And honestly, what has come out, nothing's been done with it. Just as an example, the Guidepost report, 590 some pages of detailed analysis. And that was limited to only the school piece of it. It was limited with only a third of the people cooperating. And still, it has very clear conclusions. And what has the state done with it? They haven't even acknowledged it. So yes, there's still a lot there. There's a lot that's already out in the open. It just has to be brought together with all the other pieces and turned into something. To turn it into a countermeasure, to turn it into change.
Steve, John Hood from WWJ. Earlier you mentioned this isn't about trying to get more information to prosecute anyone. You just want to get to additional facts, etc. From where you all sit, I'm curious, do you believe that this was impeded immediately because of liability and the district trying to close ranks? And I'd like a little more detail on what you felt maybe even in the immediate days beyond the fact that you've been doing this for months on end has impeded what you're trying to find.
I mean, investigation will show that, won't it?
I didn't hear you. I'm
An
sorry.
investigation will show that, won't it?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is where you sit, what you've encountered, is it as simple, is it too simple to say it was limiting liability and closing ranks and not cooperating with investigators, or is that too knee-jerk, easy to say?
I mean, just look at, you have two former Oxford board members who have said that the insurance company lawyers lied to them. You have the first investigation that was tried to be passed off to the board by SEC. They had whitewashed results. For example, they said, yeah, the policies were okay. Well, you look at the Guidepost report and they tear that apart. So has there been actions to try to impede the truth coming out? Absolutely. But as Buck said, that's part of the reason we're asking for this outside comprehensive investigation.
Yeah, because what you're questioning about is more related to the response after the shooting, right? That needs to be vetted out big time. To understand what drove what.
Trent, I got a question for you. I mean, Tate's in his Letterman jacket, he's on the football team, you're very close to the football team. As someone that's still really around Oxford High School, what has that been like either on the football field or at school? What are those feelings and sentiments been around with people similarly in age and the students that are still there? I know it's not easy.
Yeah. I went to my first football game, their second round game against Grand Blanc. That's been the first football game I've been to in 2 years. I mean, I coached the year after the season after the shooting, but I haven't been back there since. I've been back there once for a 42 jersey presentation. But yeah, it's. I don't want to talk about me. I don't want to talk. To be honest with you, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about our government, why they're not interested in getting the truth here. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We could sit up here and talk personal about what we've lost. These guys could talk personal about what their kids are dealing with. And we have. And there's been nothing that's happened. So just do the investigation. Do the investigation.
Hi, I'm Ariana Nichols from Michigan Advance. Thank you all for sharing your perspectives. Oh, sorry. I know it's a hard time of the year, so I really appreciate it. I'm wondering, in talking about this wide cast net of calling on government to address this, have you found any partners either in the current administrations within the Michigan government or maybe candidates we'll see in 2026 that you think will maybe be more sympathetic to your plight?
So there have been individuals. There's even been government bodies that have worked with us. For example, Oakland County Prosecutor's Office has worked to give us answers. They've given us their opinion, as I stated today, about the AG. We have been working behind the scenes with the governor's staff on various topics. There have been local legislators like Rosemary Bayer, for example, has been incredibly supportive. But at the end of the day, there is the lack of cohesive action. The individuals, even in the government, can't get it done by themselves. So, yes, there are pieces of the government that are supportive, been supportive behind the scenes. Alyssa Slatkin for the community has done an enormous amount for the township. But we're still here today because at the end of the day, there's no investigation, there's no cohesive change.
Few more questions on Zoom, and those in the room will begin wrapping up. How key is subpoena power in the investigation that you're asking for?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How key is subpoena power in the investigation that you're asking for?
So, based on the results of the Guidepost investigation, where only a third of the people cooperated at the school, we think it's incredibly key piece of this is to force that cooperation. You'll notice, one of the parties that we invited to stand with us today was the Oxford Teachers Union, and they declined. So I think that says a lot right there of why subpoena power is going to be crucial.
It leads me to the next question. You mentioned government officials and others are here today. Who is with you on the stage today?
Who was with us today? Okay. I'm hoping I get everybody, if I miss somebody, so first of all, we have various community members. We have the Oxford Board of Education represented. We have the Oxford Village Council represented. Oxford Village Chief of Police, Oxford Township Board, Oxford Township Fire, I'm not sure is here, but they support. The Oakland County Executive, Oakland County Board of Commissioners, Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, Oakland County Sheriff. We have members of the local clergy. And if I miss any,
We've got the parents of the 7 that were shot.
Yes.
Not all parents are here, but they're here, and the kids, they're up here.
so, yes, so that's,
Did we get Bouchard, Sheriff Bouchard?
yes. So that's kind of the list of the people who answered our call for support.
I have another question. You mentioned talking with the governor's office and getting state lawmakers involved. Could you talk about what type of changes you want to see? It seems like you focused a lot on threat assessments, emergency operation plans. What scope of change would you like to see at the K-12 level legislatively that would provide what you're looking for, what you're asking for today as part of that change for the future, so there are no more school shootings, or that they can be addressed now in prevention?
So, I mean, that's the whole point of the investigation, is I can give you my opinions on things that I think are common sense things that could help. But the point of this is to base what we're going to do on data. To get the opinion out of it. To look at things with a realistic lens and say, this is a fact. We already have this law in place, but it wasn't followed. Okay, so we follow this concept in the automotive industry, well, 5 whys. Right? So why wasn't it followed? Right? And you just keep asking the whys until you get down to the core root of the issue, and that's what you address. It would be really easy for everybody in this room just to pop off ideas about what should be done. Some of them are going to be quite valid. Some of them I think are probably going to be off the wall and not so much. The point is, let's get the data, get the opinion out of it, and use that data to come up with countermeasures.
It's Charlie Langton here, Fox 2, just, I don't know, this is asking. Knowing what you do know about this incident, do you think that there could be another high school shooting if the government does not do an investigation?
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the numbers that I quoted earlier, it's quite clear. This is an epidemic that's growing. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this will happen again. And even if it can't be prevented, if we can come up with countermeasures to at least limit the scope, limit the aftermath, it's all worth it.
Yeah, piggyback off that real quick. We're infatuated with pointing the finger at the tool of this violence, instead of thinking about why are people feeling this way? Why are people getting to the point where they want to do evil things? We're not thinking about that part of it, the whole prevention part of it. We're only addressing the gun stuff. We're not trying to get better systemically. That's what this investigation will expose. And then we can learn from that and then put that stuff in, right?
Quick question, last one for me. Was the governor and AG invited to the event to show support? Was prosecutor Don invited to show support? What was her response? And her investigator and chief prosecutor being here, does that indicate a message that? Is that a message that she is willing to now go forward with an investigation for prosecution?
So the governor was invited to at least make a statement of support. Her office declined. The AG was informed. Obviously, she wasn't going to make a statement of support. What was the last part? The prosecutor. Yeah, the prosecutor is fully supportive of this and is represented here today.
Question from Teresa Baldas from the Free Press. How much of this request for a state investigation involves holding school officials accountable? To date, none have been accountable. How can this help?
So we believe that accountability is a piece of this. There has to be some level of accountability in order to successfully drive the change. Question was asked earlier about kind of obstacles into the investigation, etc. The fact that there is no accountability at the school level, I think, is a huge obstacle. I don't think the people of Michigan quite grasp the impact that having basically immunity, unless they're the ones pulling the trigger themselves, they're covered, they have immunity. We've asked for the state to address that. Colorado changed their law after Columbine that in cases of school violence, that immunity was not automatically granted. They still were grossly negligent, they could be held accountable. Other states have addressed this. Michigan has not. There's a bill, SB 630, sitting in limbo for the last year that was introduced by, I believe, Senator Irwin and Rosemary Bayer to change the immunity law to hold the state accountable to the same level that you and I are, that the parents of the shooter were held to, of being a proximate cause versus the proximate cause. That bill has not even received a committee hearing for the past year. It just sits out there.
Question from Matt Farr with the Oakland Press. Does the fact that there's a new Board of Education and new superintendent in place give you more of a feeling of confidence that an investigation can proceed?
Absolutely. I mean, it took 3 years. We have entirely new board members compared to that day. We have, what, the 5th superintendent, something like that. We're making progress. There is a much better cooperation and communication now than there was 3 years ago, absolutely.
Getting to our last couple of questions here. If prosecution is not the goal, what type of accountability would be acceptable to you as the parents? Are you interested in seeing changes to the law of governmental immunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I just addressed that. The government immunity aspect of it is one key piece.
Yeah, accountability will drive the change, right? You can't drive change without accountability.
Last call for questions. Anyone in the room? Anyone on Zoom? I'd like to thank everyone. That is the conclusion of this press conference. I'd like to thank the panel speakers, everyone in support, everyone that joined.
Thank you.
Thank you.